What's up, YouTubers? It's me, Johnny. It's another cold and chilly night here in Chile, Guatemala. And the last few days, I've been checking out my options to fly. It looks like to me the doors are closing more and more on where you can fly without either a COVID test and or a COVID card. There is one place in Central America you can go to with no COVID card, no PCR test, and that is El Salvador. And I think Mexico. Now, I'm not sure for people coming in overseas. Maybe people coming in from Europe or maybe Canada have to take a PCR test to leave their country. I'm not sure, but I just know as an American, when I've came into Mexico, there was no need to have one of those cards to show them your vaccines and or a test. Now, I was looking to fly into Colombia, and they just changed it recently. I think next week. That's the 13th. I think either tomorrow or next week. I had heard it's the 14th, but I thought it was the 16th of December. They're going to start making people show not making them, but having them show their COVID card to enter the country and to go to restaurants and things like that. Now, what I've heard is in most of these countries, from Ecuador to Colombia, there's just going to be probably you're going to have to show that when you fly in. And then on top of that, you usually have to get a PCR test. That's one thing I don't like. The thing I don't like about it is you have to get it like 1 day to 3 days in advance. And then if you transit through 2 or 3 countries, if you transit fast enough through those countries, you don't have to get another one. But if your plane is delayed, then you have to get another test to leave that area you're transitioning from. And then a new test when you get to Colombia or whatever country you're going to usually. In most of these Asian countries, you have to get tested when you come in. And I think they got rid of, for the most parts, quarantining, with the exception of, I think, the Philippines. I had heard Cambodia is opening up and Thailand is, but I'm not really 100% sure. Anyways, but for all of Latin America, the only 2 countries I know of where you can travel to and through without a vax card or a COVID test is Mexico and El Salvador. Now, the other thing is, if you're willing to get the reason I'm going through all this, someone had sent me an email about where can I go with just my passport, no nothing. Well, those are your options from what I can tell. The other thing is, some of these countries have closed off their land borders in, like, next to Brazil. I've been checking that out. At least according to the websites I've checked out, the borders are still closed to Brazil, but you can fly in. But you have to have either a COVID card or you have to have a COVID test. Now, there's a few other countries in South America, like Uruguay. My understanding is, well, my friend, he flew in, and, well, two of my friends, they flew in, they had to quarantine, and they had to have a, what do you call it, a PR test, well, whatever they call the test, the COVID test, but they had not had the the shot. So there's still a few places you can kind of get into if you're willing to get on a plane. The thing is, if you don't have a COVID card and if you're not going to get one, you can get stuck somewhere, because more and more countries are just pretty much, what they're doing is they're saying if you don't have the COVID card, you can't traverse through the country. And there's going to be less and less countries saying, well, you can, but you just have to have the PCR test or an antigen test. Now, one more thing about that I forgot to mention. For like people in Colombia and Ecuador, this is all I know because this is only people I know of who live in those places who've told me this. So if there's any commenter, leave it a comment on the video if it's different or if what I'm saying is not correct. But from what I'm aware of and from the people I know in Colombia and Ecuador, and I think now Peru, my understanding is from one of my friends in Peru, all 3 of those countries if you're in the capital, if you're in the big tourist areas, you have to show a COVID card to eat or to go places and visit places like museums, things like that, places to eat. Now, what I was told by some friends of mine, once you're out of the tourist areas in the capitals, you don't have to show it. And then once you're in these small towns and communities, as long as you're not touristy, then you don't have to show any of that. So my feeling is most of this won't be enforced. It's like, I know some people in Costa Rica, they told me the same. Like some places do, some places don't. But that's the thing. Like, I don't know how many people are going to travel just for vacation, just, to have it so you're constantly showing your COVID card to get anywhere. Now, there's going to be your hardcore travelers who want to see stuff. They probably will. But from what I've seen from the Thailand travelers and the Thailand vloggers, tourism is just in the toilet. No one's really traveling. Countries are pretty empty. And some of these countries are putting more and more restrictions on what you can and cannot do without a COVID card. And an acquaintance of mine, he's sick and tired of showing it, but like he said, sometimes they ask for it, sometimes they don't. Like here where I'm at, sometimes I forget to do the temperature check. That's really all I have to do is do the temperature check. And most of the time I just forget to do it. And whether their temperature is high or not, it don't matter. They let you in anyways. See, that's one thing people don't realize. These things are really haphazardly enforced in Latin America, where like you can go anywhere you want. You do the temperature check, but if your temperature is high or low, they don't care. They just let you in anyways. And it's just a hassle to do it. Now, a lot of times when I'm going to these small places, cafes and stuff like that, I usually do it to be polite, but usually I forget to do it. And no one really says anything. So that's what it's going to amount to. Now, I've been checking to go to Mexico and El Salvador because those are the two countries I know of where you don't need to do the PCR, the antigen test. And I double checked. I've been double checking quite a bit just to make sure. And for what it's worth, you can go to those places. But the thing is, because those are, well, now they're starting to get popular, so prices are starting to rise. So that's one thing which is kind of disappointing. Some of my old haunts are now quite expensive in El Salvador. Now, I will probably still go, but I will just have to work out some things. Now, Mexico, the thing with Mexico for a lot of travelers, now I'm not sure why this is, but a lot of travelers are reporting they're not getting 180 days when they cross the border. Now, I know quite a few people, they just today they got 180 days and it doesn't appear to be a problem. Now, I also met a traveler a couple of days ago. He said he got 8 or 9 days, I forget. And then he overstayed a few days because he had to do some stuff. Now, when he left Mexico, they can charge you a fine if you overstay, but in his case, they didn't. So I expect if you don't overstay by that much, you probably won't get a fine, and the fine isn't that much. But that kind of is up to the discretion of the immigration officer. And also, too, it depends if you're flying. If you're flying out, they probably do. Now, the guy I talked to, he didn't. He was just crossing the border. Usually when you're just crossing land borders, they don't really care. That's the other thing is, because someone was asking me about, like Guatemala, you're supposed to show your COVID card. Now, when I entered the country, they didn't ask for it. But I always crossed by a land border. That's the other thing I was thinking about going to Honduras. I forget what I think you're supposed to show it. But I was going to go there just to see if they actually do it, because a lot of times they don't, like I said, they don't enforce these things. I just want to go to check to see if you can go into Honduras without really showing the COVID card. And I also want to see too, because like in the past, you could cross the border and there's no one really there to stop you. And like some people just go in, I forget which land border is, but there's the one where the ruins are. It's Copan Ruinas, but I forget what land border that is with Guatemala. But that border, like once you cross the border, it's about a 20-minute, maybe 10 minutes, 10 to 20-minute shuttle ride to Copan Ruinas, and it's like $1 or 20 lempiras, and maybe more now because it's been a few years since I've been there. But anyways, I'm probably going there to see what actually is going on, because half the time when you go to these land borders, they don't check you. And then in the past, you could just go there. Now, you're supposed to get your passport stamped out and then stamped in, but Some people just skip that because it's a hassle, and there's a lot of tourists crossing the border, so you got to wait in a long line. And then usually the tourist police, they're usually not standing there. Sometimes they are, but even when they're standing there, they don't usually ask you to look at a passport. So some people just sneak in, come back out, and just go back into Guatemala. Now this traveler I was talking to was pointing out how Americans are doing that in Chile. Now see, I just want to point this out because some people think I'm full of BS, but he was telling me he's traveling on a Euro passport, and he said the Americans have to pay, I don't know, 130 to 160 to go into Chile. And the Americans, they were just going in there to look at some stuff in Chile. So what they did was they snuck into Chile, which people consider more of a first world country of Latin America. And then when they came back, they just paid, I don't know, 20 or 30 bucks to come back to the country they crossed over in because they didn't get their passport stamp. Now, I'm not recommending it. I'm just saying that's what people do. Now you're thinking, well, 20 bucks, that's 20 bucks. But if you do everything properly, you got to pay 150. It's like 130, 150. I'm not sure what the exchange rate is now. It might be a little less because the currencies are going down, but against the dollar. But I think he said it was 120, 130 bucks right now. It used to be more when the currency was stronger, but when you go to these South American countries, a lot of them for American passport holders, you have to pay a small fortune to be allowed in the countries. That's why I tend to stay in Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, and Nicaragua. I would be visiting Nicaragua more, but my understanding is they're pretty strict on the COVID test. And if you go from, it used to be you'd have to pay $100 in El Salvador and then $100 in Honduras and then $100 in Nicaragua. That's $300. Now I'm not going to do that. Now, right now, you can go into El Salvador without a COVID test, and you could go into, let me think. Okay, I'm not really sure. I better not comment on that. But anyways, if you only had to pay the $100 once, then maybe I would go to Nicaragua. But with all these things that you have to meet, it's kind of a hassle. And if you're on an airplane and you get stuck somewhere, I just don't want to do that. That's why I'm looking at traveling to local areas and the land borders. I was going to go to Colombia, but now they're going to be a pain in the neck and require the PCR test and or the antigen test. Now, again, I checked it out. Like if you fly and if you're rerouted or something happens in transit, you got to get another PCR test. So you got to get two, and then one when you land. If I understand right. So if everything goes right, you just need the one test. But if you get stranded somewhere or you get rerouted or your plane is delayed for any reason, then you got to get another one from that country wherever you're stuck in. Like in my case, that'd be Panama. And these tests are like $100, 100, 150. And I don't know, it's just not worth the risk right now. Before, when Colombia was just letting you in, just I think with the PCR test, no COVID card or nothing, it wasn't bad. But like I said, it just depends. Like if you have the COVID cards, or if you have it, then you can. But still, many of these countries require the COVID card and a COVID test. And now we're hearing more and more, I think, news where you're going to have not just the 2 shots, but 3 or 4 shots. It ain't kind of worth it. So I got this email on where can you go right now if you're in North America without any COVID tests or without any COVID card. And right now it's only Mexico and El Salvador. Now, if you're just looking to transit through Guatemala, right now you're supposed to have it, but you can just come into Guatemala through the land border and go right into El Salvador. And but then again, if you're sneaking across the border, you wouldn't have your passport stamp. But then again, I got my passport stamped. They didn't ask me for any COVID card or nothing. So for people who are looking to relocate or whatever, those are really only your options that I can see. From what I can tell, more and more countries are going to lock down against people who don't have the COVID card or the shot. And I'm not sure how it's all going to play out, because I don't see how people can get shots every 6 months or every year and comply with all that. Because there's going to the world's just going to divide up into places where you don't need all that and places where you're going to need it. And from what I'm seeing right now in the UK and a lot of Eastern Europe and Western European countries, there's a lot of protests going on, but so far it hasn't changed the policy of these countries. We'll have to wait and see how it goes. Anyways, that's it for now. Like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment. Thanks.